Hello, guys. Welcome, everybody, to Purple Haze Podcast. I am your host, who bleeds purple and gold, Isaac here. So I kind of wanted to tackle since basically, and excuse me, if the content's kind of slowing down, but I'll try to do one every once a week because there's just not a whole lot happening, or news, or if it was the preseason, if it was minicamp, if it was the regular season, there would be a lot to talk about, or free agency and draft for that matter. But I kind of want to tackle, another thing, basically, that there's been a lot of talk about. And that is, and it's also a point that I completely overlooked, is the wide receiver 3 position. Who is it going to be? Which is what's been asked, basically, by a lot, and we all and here is the known that we already know, is that obviously Justin Jefferson is wide receiver 1 and Jordan Addison is wide receiver 2. So we already know that's going to be the case. But who's going to be wide receiver 3? Is it going to be Brandon Powell? Is it going to be Jalen Naylor? Tristan Jackson? Either one of those 3 receivers. Is it going to be one of those guys? But here, let me just fill you in a bit. About all these 3 that I'm going to talk about. Starting off with Brandon Powell. He's an absolute... I believe that I would call... The best way to describe Brandon Powell, for me, is clutch. He is a clutch catcher when it matters the most. We saw that on multiple third downs in the 23 regular season, that he basically doesn't have to be like a deep threat, but he can make the catches when you need them the most. And Jalen Naylor, the times that I've seen him play in some of the regular season games, he's actually been pretty good. I would say he's almost right on par with Brandon Powell, and Tristan Jackson is the same way, but I would say he's a little more athletic than Jalen Naylor, but Jalen Naylor is still solid enough, but I would say just a hair, I would say Tristan Jackson is better than Jalen Naylor, but the disappointing thing is that we haven't seen Tristan Jackson play in the regular season than we did in the preseason. I've seen him in the preseason. He's been really good, but I just like to see more. But, it is definitely a close competition between the 3 of them for the wide receiver 3 spot, but that's going to be an interesting battle. But for me, if I were to pick right now, in my opinion, it would just be based off of of the larger sample size that I saw in the regular season. I think basically gives us the best odds. I think it's Brandon Powell. It's just my opinion. Either one of those 3 could be right, but I'm going to stick with my boy, Brandon Powell. I think he can absolutely make some noise during the regular season as a wide receiver 3. And just think about it. Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, and Brandon Powell already sound like a good enough wide receiver trio. It doesn't have to be flashy as long as but he's all about making the plays when it matters the most. That's just my opinion based on what I saw in the 23 season. I know Tristan Jackson and Jalen Naylor, you don't really see a lot of the known. They're basically unknown as far as what can they do for the whole entire regular season, as far as how productive are they, and not just one game, but in a multitude of consecutive games, because that's where a wide receiver 3 is. So I basically I would go with the guy right now, Brandon Powell, as of right now, because I just trust him a lot more. Not to say that Jalen Naylor and Tristan Jackson aren't good receivers, but I just feel like Brandon Powell is my guy. But I feel like Tristan Jackson, though, but but in their defense, I think they might be good rotational guys. Wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. I think basically the Vikings are all set with those guys, making some snaps, here and there. So I feel like though the wide receiver room overall with those 5 receivers, I think we already got ourselves one hell of a receiver set. So I mean, basically though, it's basically pick your poison. You're going to get diced up either way, so you can't double cover one because the other one will make a play. And they're even good as a backup plan, as an insurance policy, If one of them gets injured, like let's say Justin Jefferson gets injured, you still got many options. Jordan Addison, Brandon Powell, Tristan Jackson, Jalen Naylor to go to make plays. And I think you're basically all set with the receiver position. So, I mean, you're all set with that, which hopefully Justin Jefferson doesn't get injured. I'm just giving an example of if he does. You still got playmakers all over the board, there is an absolute reason why it should be a high octane offense. There is no reason for it not to be. So we'll basically see, but that's just my opinion. I think Brandon Powell earned the wide receiver 3 spot for me. I mean, if you guys have a different opinion, just let me know. I mean, I don't mind it. I don't mind you guys disagreeing with my opinion, but so thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Skull.